Hello YouTube. I just wanted to do a quick video because I've been thinking about this. Some of the things that Hythlo Day has said to me about objective morality, and specifically his requirement that we're able to derive rules from some ethical system, right? I'm skeptical about this requirement actually being useful. It seems to me that in order for a rule that is as something that can be stated, right? A proposition, right? In order for that to be ethically useful, it actually has to stop being a rule, right? It has to go from being a proposition to something that is internalized in my being. So like, and the reason why is that like where ethics really matters is when the chips are down. So like, let's say my girlfriend really pisses me off, right? Like does something that makes me really angry, right? Now there are a multiplicity of possible actions that could emerge from this, right? Some people might choose to strike her. You know what I mean? Some people might choose to disengage and walk away, right? Or something like this. There are a handful of potential actions that can emerge from this situation. But it seems to me that at no point in that real world moment do I stop and recall the categorical imperative or something, or recall some ethical maxim or something like this, refer to that, and then let that guide my action. No, the fact is, like I'm going to do that which it is within my being to do. So if I have internalized a certain ethic of nonviolence, then I'm not going to do this. But it's like the point is that it has to be something that emerges from me. It has to be something, rather than something that I intellectually refer to. So in this way, I would say that an ethical rule is only useful insofar as it's not a rule, insofar as it's not a proposition. Now it may be expressed, it may be capable of being expressed as a proposition, but that proposition is not what's useful, right? So again, I go back to this distinction between the know-how and the know-that, right? A rule is a know-that. It's again like a driver's manual. What's important is the know-how. When the chips are down, when a situation presents itself and you need to act, right? There is no time, or there's an imperative dimension to what's happening. It seems to me that the idea of a rule, a propositional rule being stated, is pretty much the most useless thing that you can have. Now, there may be utility to a rule in evaluating the actions of others, right? Or maybe even looking back on your own actions or something. But that could be useful. But I don't think that's the primary thrust of what ethics is, or why ethics is important, right? If ethics is how do I lead the good life, right, as it's been sort of classically defined, it doesn't seem to me to be all that important to say, well, that guy did this and he's an asshole for that, and I can show you this logically, right? That might be an interesting discussion to have, but it's not the heart. It's not at the heart of ethics. The question is, how do I regulate my behavior, right? To ensure that my actions are in conformity with my my ethical life. It seems to me that you can't, when the chips are down, there is nothing but conscience, right? There is nothing but an ethical intuition. Um, that is to say, like, I have encountered situations where I could do something unethical, um, and we don't always pass these tests, of course. Um, but the fact is, like, what the most sure steering thing for me, the most surefire regulative aspect of this is the fact that when one course of action is entertained, I feel sick at the notion of it. Or I feel like repulsed at the notion of it, or it doesn't even enter my mind, right? Um, like this is I think how ethics unfolds. This is where ethics matters. It's an issue of how ethics, how your being reacts to ethics, to decisions, to potential decisions. Um, so like, I don't see how the requirement that we be able to derive rules is essential to ethics. This seems to me to be like, it's kind of a fun game to play, right? But it's very abstract. It's an abstraction of real ethical life and experience that we have all the time in the first person, right? This ethical dimension. Like, how often is it that you're really confronted with some ethical situation, and you refer to a rule in your head intellectually? I don't know. Maybe everybody in the world does that, but me. But it seems like it seems like that whole system breaks down the moment any form of immediacy is introduced. Now, there are some situations where I have time to think about, like, okay, what do I want to do here? What do I want to do there? What do I want to, you know what I mean? I have the time to weigh these kinds of things out. But in truth, like, when I have some really difficult ethical situation that I'm leading up to, that isn't necessarily immediate, right? Even there, I don't think that I'm thinking about things in terms of, like, rational propositions so much as trying to come to grips with a no way out situation and trying to do the best that I can, right? Like, it's purely like a first person phenomenological experience. So I mean, these questions of rules and such, again, like, in the same way that reading a driver's manual doesn't hurt you becoming a better driver, but it's not the core of what it is to be a good driver. In the same way, I think understanding ethical rules or maxims or something, or understanding a system of ethics, seems to me to be not bad, but it's not the heart of what ethical life is. Ethical life is much messier and more difficult than I think can quite be captured in this propositional way. And I think that there's something problematic in not admitting that, right? There's something, the notion that if only I could figure out this proper set of rules, uh, you know, all ethical questions would be answered. And I mean, that's probably a caricature of the point, but like, but it seems like where it all happens is in some way, to use a really trite statement, it's an issue of the heart and not the head, right? It's something that happens pre-linguistically. And yeah, that's just my thought on the idea of the necessity of deriving ethical rules. Again, it might be necessary in developing your ethical life, but it's not the end, right? It's a means to an end. And yeah, thank you very much, and have a good day.